Hi, my name is Arianna Riddle, and I will be discussing historical sea weather, navigating the past through climatic sea weather events. The regions covered in this presentation are the North Atlantic Ocean, Gulf of Mexico, and the South Atlantic Ocean. According to Cerrito et al., in their 2022 article, defined historical sea weather as qualitative descriptive information written in places like newspapers, libraries, shiplogs, and diaries. Before 1851, people only had their vision and written word to describe and capture weather information because the introduction of weather instruments had not been invented yet. We still use this information today to help us better understand future weather events and our changing climate. Wind was the first and most commonly written weather characteristic, as Cerrito et al. Explain in their 2022 article. This was because ships heavily depend on wind, more specifically the trade winds and the westerlies. Crash Course Geography in their video states that the Earth has wind because of the axial tilt of the planet, the amount of light a location receives from the sun because of the tilt, and the rotation of the Earth. Temperature creates differences in air pressure, which is how wind is created. Wind direction is affected by the pressure gradient force moving air from high pressure to low pressure. Scientists have named the winds from which direction they come from. For example, the westerlies come from the west, and the northeast trade winds come from the northeast. Sailors depend on these winds to bring them back and forth from trading or raiding in a timely and safe fashion. Early explorers also realized in certain parts of the ocean that were close to the equator produced little to no wind, so they tried to avoid this area at all costs. This area is called the Intratropical Convergence Zone, which is where the northeast and the southeast winds collide. It is also referred to as the doldrums. The interaction between wind and the ocean is what creates ocean currents. These currents are important to global climate change because they help regulate the temperature of the ocean. Historical sea weather documentation has been very helpful for scientists and researchers. According to Cerrito et al., scientists such as William Redfield and William Reed used historical climatology records from shiplogs and newspapers to map out hurricane paths to study patterns. Their contributions set the foundation for other Atlantic historical hurricane studies, and that was all thanks to historical written sea weather documentation as mentioned by Cerrito et al. Each blue dot on the map shows where a historical written observation was made on land about the hurricane of 1846, and the ships are where observations were made from sea. The analysis conducted by Cerrito et al. Suggests they used multiple historical written sources from land and sea to determine the path of this hurricane. The first record of the Great Havana Hurricane came from a ship leaving the Caribbean port on October 5, 1846. This hurricane lasted for 10 days and made history with the 2,900 miles it traveled, according to Cerrito et al. Port logs recorded the seas getting heavy and gale force winds taking place, as mentioned by Cerrito et al. Gale force winds are winds that are stronger than average and have the potential to cause damage. Cerrito et al. Discovered a commander's handwritten port log that stated the wind blew powerfully from the northeast in the early morning, causing an extraordinary low tide that left boats on dry land. In western Cuba, citizens reported complete destruction of homes and buildings, indicating the most destructive storm took place at this location with maximum wind speeds. This evidence shows that powerful hurricanes were possible and happened during a time when our climate was more stable. Navy logbooks from the U.S. were located in the Atlantic Ocean on the banks of Nova Scotia have proven to be instrumental in cross-referencing and investigating past sea weather events. Dickey and Watch in their 2024 article mentioned that the logbooks from the naval ships had hourly ship observations that were systematically recorded in real time with consistent terminology. Dickey and Watch discuss written records from Benjamin Franklin describing an unspecified large weather event and coming to a hypothesis of why it was happening. Dickey and Watch state that Mr. Franklin's hypothesis was that hurricanes are produced by currents of cold winds rushing from the north along the Atlantic coast and mingling with the warm winds produced by the Gulf Stream. This particular storm that was recorded farther north than usual, proving that large weather events can keep up strength in the right conditions. This storm was witnessed by many soldiers, leaving behind multiple written accounts of the storm's strength. After extensive research of historical sea events, Like hurricanes, researchers and scientists believe that climate change of warmer waters can make storms stronger and last longer. Perito et al. In their 2004 article informed the reader that many early iceberg records came from Spanish ship logs. Research by Perito et al. Reveals that a past Spanish king had made a law requiring all ships to keep detailed records of weather and geographical discoveries. This left a large amount of recorded climatology that has proven to be helpful in learning more about our past weather events. Many future voyages depended on the drawings of past iceberg sightings, knowing that the landscape could have changed by the time they got there, making these journeys dangerous and sometimes impossible, as stated by Perito et al. Captains and sailors would use the massive ships to compare to the size of the icebergs, as mentioned by Perito et al. It is clear that sailors had to be resourceful in how they documented weather obstacles like icebergs. Exploring qualitative data from written records from the past is an important piece of the climate change puzzle. When scientists use this type of data, they are cross-referencing the data with quantifiable data to further determine if rapid change is occurring. Historical data laid the groundwork for scientists before there was quantifiable data to turn to, and helped give examples of possible outcomes from strong climatic sea weather events, such as hurricanes. Even in our modern time, with all the technology we have at our fingertips, researchers will still refer to historical data to further prove that climate change is happening and that impactful weather events are possible. Using historical sea weather information has proven to be helpful in painting a picture of what can happen in the future with the Earth's climate and sea weather patterns.